What is up, everybody? Welcome to the first major edition of the Fit and Form podcast, the 102nd PGA Championship. Here we're talking about this week, and I've changed up the podcast just a little bit this week, as instead of looking at course history, which, we only have 2 years of Harding Park information, and it's from 2015 and 2005. So not incredibly relevant to talk about. What I've done is I've gone into major history instead. Now, of course, if you're a golfer like me, we all know that every golf course is made differently, and every golf course suits specific golfers better than others. It's just a known fact. However, one thing we do know about professional golf and majors is that they're typically the toughest test the golfers will face all year in terms of how the golf course plays, in terms of the relative to par. Just a known fact. Most of you already know this, of course, but in any case, moving on. I'm going to start with major history. I'm going to look at the last 5 majors that have competed, getting all the way back to the 2018 PGA Championship. Of course, the PGA Championship after that year, where it was held at Bellerive and Brooks Koepka won, switched to May of last year. So that's why we get 2 PGA Championships, and then, of course, the Opens and the Masters. So the last one we had, of course, was the Open Championship. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys some just information on the top 10s, top 25s, some cuts, some cut streaks that are going to be on the line this week, maybe some negative performances in majors. Maybe guys that are looking for a breakthrough this week, or maybe guys that just are not typically suited for major type golf. Who knows? That'll be, of course, for you to decide. And I'll let you know how I'm going to decide, of course, in my premium content. And if you're not an Awesemo Plus member, it is a great time to become one. Of course, we have this major. We've got another major just 6 weeks from now, and the FedEx Cup playoffs. So a ton still on the line for golf going forward as we move into the year. And with 2 majors in 6 weeks, we know we're going to get some of the best fields. So a great time to join, just $8.95. And for that, you're going to get full access to Awesemo's leading golfer projections, ownership projections, his top golfers tool, and so much more, including my PGA DFS model, where all the information that I'm about to give to you, I also give to you in a nice spreadsheet form, all for Awesemo Plus members. So, top 10s. Okay, 14 golfers have at least 2, but Koepka has it a top 5 in all 5 of them. I mean, it's just pretty incredible. Jon Rahm has 4 in his 5 starts, but has 1 missed cut. Adam Scott and Gary Woodland have 3, but also have a missed cut in there. And then we get a bunch of guys that have 2, but also have no missed cuts. So pretty interesting there. The 2 couple of names that start there, Xander Schauffele, also Dustin Johnson, Patrick Cantlay, Ricky Fowler, Tony Finau, and Jordan Spieth. All of those guys are 5 for 5 in cuts made, and all of them have 2 top 10s in the last 5 majors. Really interesting stuff. When we switch our attention to top 25s, Matt Kuchar and Jason Day are the only golfers to join Brooks Koepka that have at least 4 top 25s. Of course, Koepka has done it in all 5 of them, as I just mentioned. Kuchar and Day have 4. A bunch of golfers have 3. A lot of the ones that I just mentioned above that haven't missed a cut are in this bunch. And a couple of names I haven't mentioned are Ty Hatton and Webb Simpson. While they don't have multiple top 10s, they do have multiple top 25s and also have yet to miss a cut in the last 5 majors. All right, speaking of cuts, and as I continue to mention that, of course, the every week goal in PGA DFS, unless it's a WGC. Well, I guess in WGCs as well, you want to have 6 of 6 golfers playing every single day, all weekend. So these are some of the guys that might be able to help you do that. Of course, I've mentioned a bunch like Xander, Ricky, Jordan, Patrick Cantlay, and the like. A few I haven't mentioned, though. Tommy Fleetwood, Cameron Smith, Louis Oosthuizen, Jason Kokrak, Daniel Berger, Eric Van Rooyen, and Andrew Putnam. Maybe a name we didn't expect to see there, Andrew Putnam, as he's coming into this week certainly not playing his best golf. All right, now let's turn our attentions to some negative guys, maybe just some that are looking for a breakthrough here, maybe ones that are just not suited for major type golf. again, as I said at the top, this will be for you guys to decide. Okay, top 10s. 15 golfers have played in all 5 and don't have a top 10. Hideki Matsuyama is one of those guys. Now, he has 2 top 25s and 4 made cuts. So only 1 missed cut. No top 25s, though. No top 10s. Other guys that have no top 10s include Billy Horschel, Kevin Kisner, Mark Leishman, Dustin Johnson, Cameron Smith, who I just mentioned, has made every cut, but no top 10s. Bryson DeChambeau, whose major history is actually pretty poor right now. Sergio Garcia, Patrick Reed, that's a really interesting one there, as he won the Masters before that. So maybe if I had just extended it out 2 more, he would have definitely qualified. In any case, Jimmy Walker, former PGA champion, Brandt Snedeker, Phil Mickelson, Ian Poulter, and Bubba Watson. No top 10s in their last 5 majors. Oof, I gotta say, I would have to believe with all of those guys I just mentioned, and how good Bryson DeChambeau has been playing, I would suspect that is going to change. One of those 10 guys is likely going to get a top 10 this week. Speaking of top 10s, I shouldn't say speaking of, I guess top 25s is a little bit of a different category, but of the golfers that I just mentioned, only 3 of them have played all 5 times with no top 25s. Sergio Garcia, Bryson DeChambeau, and Mark Leishman. Those are 3 big-time names with no top 25s in their last 5 majors. Other names that have no top 25s but haven't played all 5 of them: Keegan Bradley, Adam Hadwin, Joaquin Niemann still in search of his first, Sungjae Im as well, and Tom Lewis, not searching for his first top 25 in a major, but first in the last 5 at least. A nice thing, though, going to at least, if you have played in all 5 majors, you have made at least 1 cut. So I guess that's a positive thing, and there's no golfer in the field that has played all 5 times and missed every cut. Siwoo Kim is the closest. He is 0 for 4, while Keith Mitchell, Jorge Campillo, and CT Pan are just a couple of other guys that are 0 for 3. All right, so that was a couple of minutes on major history, and this is, of course, they are my favorite events. I had a conversation with somebody who's maybe not the biggest golf fan out there, but enjoys it, and says to me, why do I like it when it's difficult? Why don't I like it when they're making a ton of birdies? Well, I think for me, being a golfer myself, I love to see these guys have to try extremely hard on every single shot. They can't take a break, because if they do, they are in some big trouble. They will get penalized for it at majors. In most PGA Tour events that you see week in and week out, there are somewhat of 45 to 48, maybe even 50 events throughout the year. We only get 4 that are like this, and I just think it brings out the best of the golfer's abilities and showcases everything throughout the bag. Of course, hitting the ball 350 yards is great, but if you can't get the ball in the hole in fewer amount of times than somebody can hit at 270, I'm all for that a couple times a year. I'm all for using every part of your game, and that is one of the reasons why I love it. So, all right, let's move on to some recent form. Now, we've talked about recent major history. Let's see if we can match up some recent form. A couple of top 10s, of course. JT and Bryson. So Bryson, of course, has 4 top 10s in the last 8 weeks. That's what we're looking at for criterion in terms of recent form. And, of course, Bryson will be looking for his first top 25, so something has got to give there. Either recent form will break or the recent major history form will break. JT has 4 as well. Jason Day and Daniel Berger with 3. A couple others have 2. Actually, a bunch of others have 2, including Troy Mellett, Emiliano Grillo, Gary Woodland, and Colin Morikawa. In terms of top 25, Victor Hovland and Xander Schauffele have 5. While Answer, Glover, and Bryson have 4. In terms of making every cut, there's just a couple of guys that have done that. Richie Werenski, Ty Hatton, Patrick Cantlay, Adam Hadwin, Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, Abraham Answer, and Xander Schauffele are a couple of those names. When we turn into the negative side of recent form, this one is crazy here. Now, Rory has made every cut, as I just mentioned, but he has no top 10s since returning in 8 weeks. When we switch over to top 25s, a couple of names that might surprise you with none of those either. Mark Leishman, Tommy Fleetwood, Paul Casey, Bernd Wiesberger, and Tiger Woods. Now, granted, Woods and Fleetwood have only competed twice, so it's not like that's a huge stretch, but a few others like Keegan Bradley, Brant Snedeker, Graham McDowell, and Jimmy Walker also searching for their first top 25. We turn to our cut or missed cut segment. Maybe a couple of guys you want to avoid, although I just mentioned Andrew Putnam hasn't missed a cut in a major all the times he's competed. I think it's 4 there, although he came in pretty close to last, I think, in one of the U.S. Opens or Masters, one of those. In any case, one of that we'll have to give. Putnam's recent major form we'll have to give, or his recent form showing up now we'll have to give, as he has missed 4 cuts. Only 4 or 5 players that have done that, including Vaughn Taylor, Nate Lashley, and Tom Hoagie, all really struggling. Only Nate Lashley, though, has yet to make a paycheck since the restart. All right, now we're going to go in our last segment of this and talk about the strokes gained. Of course, in a major, you really want to focus on strokes gained total, being able to get it done throughout the entire bag. Of course, I give a little bit more detail and my full entire data set of numbers here in the article, the strokes gained analysis for the 102nd PGA Championship, that you can find live now on the Awesemo website. That is free. Even if you're not a member, you can check that out. What we're looking for in the last 6 weeks, strokes gained total. Xander Schauffele has done it 5 times, gained at least 2 strokes or more. Justin Thomas, Tony Finau, and Matt Fitzpatrick have done it 4 times. So we're not divvying it out and seeing how they're doing it there. We're just saying they've gained 2 or more strokes that amount of time. So certainly, guys, to focus on this week. Tee to green, if you want to take out putting and say, all right, Matt Fitzpatrick, you've gained 100 strokes putting in the last 8 weeks. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to look for golfers that have gained at least 1.25. And that's been done by Sergio Garcia, Jason Day, and Brooks Koepka 4 times. Now, let's say around the green, Jason Day, that's where you gain most of your strokes. Let's take out ball striking. Now we're going to look for guys that have gained at least 3/4 of a stroke ball striking. Tony Finau has done it 5 times. Victor Hovland, Corey Connors, and Bubba Watson have done it 4 times. And maybe a name that'll surprise you, Sebastian Munoz has also done it 4 times. He's also missed a couple of cuts, so that's only 2 rounds there in that. Okay, now when we switch to short game, I just mentioned Matt Fitzpatrick 4 times in the last 8 weeks that he's gained over a stroke. Mackenzie Hughes, though, has one-upped him and done it 5 times. Bryson DeChambeau, Billy Horschel, Brian Harman, and JT Poston have all done it 3 times. Believe it or not, Jordan Spieth has only done it twice. He's actually struggled with his putting. I know those of you that were expecting to hear his name, not going to hear it quite yet. Okay, when we switch to off the tee, what I'm looking for is real consistency here. Reason being is I don't think you're going to be able to gain a ton of strokes off the tee. The fairways are just so hard to hit. So I just want some consistency, knowing that they have control over their tee shot. That's typically when you see a golfer gain at least 1/4 of a stroke off the tee. They typically have a good control over where it's going. Bubba Watson's done it 7 times in 8 starts. John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Colin Morikawa have all done it 6 times. Okay, strokes gained on the approach. I'm looking for guys that have gotten hot with their irons in the last 8 weeks. Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, Russell Henley, Victor Hovland have gained at least 1 stroke multiple times since the restart. Now, around the green, I want consistency around the green here. Thomas has gained at least 1/4 of a stroke 6 out of 6 starts. Brian Harman has also done it 6 times, but I think he's had at least 1 more start. Jason Day has done it 5 times, and 25 golfers have done it 3 or more times, including Dylan Fratelli and, yes, Jordan Spieth. Okay, the last one, of course, that we're going to talk about, and is last, and but certainly not least, is putting. I want to know golfers that have putted really well over the last 8 weeks. I shouldn't say really well. I want to say matching the field or bettering. So at least averaging 0.25 strokes gained against the field putting over the last 8 weeks. 6 times it's been done by Andrew Putnam. What a surprise. Bryson DeChambeau, Matt Fitzpatrick, Matt Kuchar, Ian Poulter, Sepp Straka, and Gary Woodland. I'm sorry, all of them have done it 5 times, where Mackenzie Hughes is the only one to have done it 6 times. All right, so hopefully that gives you enough statistical-based information with the strokes gained and maybe some recent major history and some recent form. give you guys all a couple of plays to take a look at. Certainly some names that I mentioned quite a few times there in talking about those things. So some good crossover, and hopefully that will translate into good results this week. Of course, we have so much more coming out that will prepare you for your PGA DFS lineups. Of course, a ton of contests around the industry this week. We've got $1 million, we've got $100,000, and we've also got Super Draft putting out one of their biggest contests that we've seen for this major, the $3,000 to first place long drive contest. And I want to thank Super Draft. They are the sponsor of the show, so I appreciate the continued support. And if you haven't played over there, it's a great time to do so. The future of daily fantasy sports have arrived. Experience Super Draft's exclusive game mode multiplier. Say goodbye to salary restrictions and hello to lineup freedom. Use your fantasy sports knowledge to draft any player you want and build your very own dream team. Countless lineup possibilities let you experience daily fantasy sports the way you want. Super Draft offers contests for PGA, NASCAR, MLB, NBA, and so much more, so you can enjoy the best of DFS all year round. Sign up for Super Draft today using promo code Awesemo10, and you get 10 free on your first deposit of 10 or more, and 20 total free on your first deposit of 100 or more. And you can look for the app in the App Store or play at superdraft.io. Superdraft, no limits, and more winning. Okay, so we've possibly got a little bit of a weather element going on this week. You will want to stay tuned. Ben and I will, of course, break that down tomorrow night at 8:30 on our Live Before Lock show. And, of course, I'll be out with my Against the Grain pod where I talk about ownership for the Millionaire Maker contest and so much more, including Super Draft and FanDuel this week. So tune in to the Against the Grain pod coming out probably tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, if you are listening to this at a different time. So thanks again for joining the Fit in the Form podcast, the second part of the Awesemo Golf podcast series. And we will see you on the other side. Cheers.